Welcome everyone to episode 138 of Just Joshing. I'm your host Joshua Pentelaresco. I write stuff and podcast too, and today my guest in part 1 of 2 is M. Jane Colette. I met her at One Words Collage. She was the moderator of my very first panel, and she seemed really cool. We hit it off fairly well, and she was nice enough to come on the show, and we had a really fun talk. This is part 1 of it today. But before we get into that, I kind of wanted to point out something really cool. Her current book, Consequences, is currently available on Audible, Amazon, iTunes. It's performed by Elisa Kay. You should check it out. It's really cool that she's done this. I really have been digging how she's been trying different things. She actually audio tour blogged a novel. A complete novel, 48 different blogs, 48 different parts to the novel. It's almost like a crossover. It was really neat to do. I like her ability to be experimental and bold with her work. It was a lot of fun to talk to her, and I really enjoyed it. And she's a hell of a writer. Like, just read her current blog about her grandfather's death. That actually was a short story in of itself, and it was really top notch. She's damn good, and really you should check her out. Alright, enough from me. Let's get to part 1 of my conversation with M. Jane Colette. What you want to do, which by the way I've turned this on, so anything incriminating you want to say,
don't say it now.
No, you can, or make it really good. Like, I mean, if you're gonna confess to something, like, make it, like, I mean, even if it's not real, make it really good, because that way, it at least sounds like an entertaining story, if nothing else, right?
Okay. So it's going to take me a while to relax and get used to talking into the machine, because usually in my day job I'm on the other side of the table, right? I'm the interviewer.
Oh really? What do you do?
So as M. Jane Colette, I write erotic romance, and as my other self, I write legal and business affairs. So
interesting.
It's because I'm a Gemini.
Yes.
We always split things in as different ways as possible.
So my question is, did you find erotica first, or did you find business first?
No, I found business first. So actually, this is not an incriminating story, but
it doesn't have to be incriminating.
But an interesting story of the crossroads in people's lives. So I was in, like most writers, I've always written, right? I had my first stuff published when I was 13. I had my first kind of money for writing job when I was 17. And then I had a pressure to grow up and do something else. And I got a little bit derailed with university and grad school and other things. And then I had an opportunity presented by kind of unemployment. I moved to Montreal from Calgary. I didn't speak French well enough to get a real job there. And I decided that, clearly this was a sign that I was supposed to go back to what I am. I was supposed to start writing. So I started writing everything, fiction and lifestyle pieces and pitching, and just, I really had no focus, but I was creating and sending out, and
you were just doing to see.
I was just doing to see what it was really like. If I look back at it, it was like throwing things to see what would stick, right?
Yeah. No, I understand. I understand that. Yeah.
And so there was this one day when, for people my age, we remember at this time we were still sending everything out in envelopes.
Yes.
And all the rejections came in envelopes that you paid for.
Yes.
The postage on, right? Like, you paid for your own rejection.
I know.
And then it was all your own handwriting too. So when I'd go down to the mailbox in the morning, I had by month 2 or 3 of doing this, I was hating the sight of my own handwriting, right? Because I knew that, like, when they accepted something, they actually sent it to you in a proper envelope. I don't know what they did with the one that you sent them. Maybe tossed it, I guess. But yeah. So anyway, so I go down. I went down to the mailbox one day, and there were a bunch of other stuff, but there were 2 letters, and they were both acceptance pieces. And one was for a short story that took me, I don't know how long, like probably months to write and polish, right? And it was for $25.
That probably was an amazing $25 though when you got it.
And then the other was a check and an acceptance for a piece that I knocked off for a business magazine in about 45 minutes, and it was for $500.
I can understand your decision making.
And so I was standing there looking at these two checks and looking at my investment in this work, just going, I can't do this, right? I cannot. And I knew, at that point, I mean, like everyone else, I've read Stephen King's on writing. I've read all these stories of how the writers of old cut their teeth on short stories and magazine publishing and all of that, right? That world didn't exist, like even in 2000. I mean, clearly it hasn't existed for decades now, but it was gone by 2000. And so I'm sitting there looking at this $25 check and this. Oh no, it wasn't even a check. It was like a note saying that upon publication I would get paid $25.
Yeah.
Maybe. And this other one, and going, I can't support a family on this, right?
No,
I cannot support a family on this. And so this was really my, when I decided to focus on the business and legal writing. And so that was, I think, 2000, and I didn't actually write any fiction for the next 12 years, or poetry, or anything. For the next 12 years, I only wrote things that made me money.
That's not again, if you got a family support and things, that's not understandable. I have friends who are in an interesting boat. When I was working on a film, one of the other buddies that was there, he writes like a stage drive, he goes, I hate it, man, because it's not like he's doing like the stuff, like he says, it's writing, but it's not what I want to do. I go, but you're a step closer. Like you're still like literally a step away, right? Because you are still writing, you are still working on your craft. It's just what you're doing is, it may not be the stuff you want to write about, but some of the rules there are still some of the rules in fiction and everything else.
So that's sort of the next chapter in this story. So if I look at those 12 years of writing business, so I'm able, like I look back at it now, and I was so incredibly lucky. I had a lot of lucky breaks along the way that, it was the year 2000, for example, and not 2007, at which point, like for me, as I look back, trying to make a living freelance writing post 2007 would have been impossible had I not had those years when newspapers still paid, right? Where what magazines paid could actually support you. So timing was a big part of it. But anyway, so like you said, I was writing, and it didn't matter to me what I was doing. I was writing on my own time, and so in those 12 years I popped out 3 kids, and I was able to be their primary caregiver, which was really important to me. And so for a long time, it was enough, and business writing and legal affairs writing is very challenging, intellectually challenging, which, I thrived on, and sometimes incredibly boring. Like I would get an incredibly boring topic, but the challenge there would be, what can I do with this, right? So the one that still wins for me is I was asked to write a piece on law firm leases. And I remember getting this and just crying, right? Just looking at it and going, why?
Yeah, why am I doing this?
Why? And then, I bucked up and thought, okay, no, like this is ultimately about people and places, and that's interesting. And where people work is interesting and important. And I need to find the part to this story that speaks to people, right? That's about people and not leases. And so for a long time I was quite good satisfied with what I was doing. And then, it was like I hit a wall, right? Where I had another one of those moments, this time not triggered by a check, but by getting another story. And I looked at it and I thought, I have just written this story like 2 years ago. This is just a different reiteration. I'm on a hamster wheel. I'm kind of doing the same thing over and over again. And a number of other things, I think, kind of plunged me into this identity crisis, where I was sitting there thinking, okay, so I have been writing professionally, full-time, for the last 12 years. I have been earning money writing, publishing since I was 17. I don't think I'm a writer. Why is that? Like, really, if you ask me what I do, what I am, I don't think of myself as a writer. What is that? And then I realized that for me, being a writer meant one thing.
Fiction.
Fiction.
Yes.
fiction and specifically novels, not even short stories, which was what I had been playing with before. I had never finished a novel. Well, I wrote, like most of us, a really bad novel when I was 13. I'm so grateful, incidentally, that never got published.
No, we all have that. We all have that closet story. I have this great. I had this great idea for a novel, and I wrote it. And I remember this. It is currently. Actually, there's my high school novel, then there's my really, really bad novel, right? And then my really, really bad novel, I know this. I knew it was bad. I didn't understand why. I edited the poor thing to death. I tried to do it in a certain format. And
it just wasn't fixable, hey?
No.
So was it a structural flaw? Or
yes.
was it an idea flaw?
Idea was amazing.
Okay.
The structural flaw. For some strange reason, I thought I could write like George R.R. Martin with this. That's a bad call. That was a bad.
But that's a typical young writer thing, right? Where you try to emulate, and that's how you learn. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
It is. One person has tried reading this. He was ready. When I say try, she's laughing. Yes. At some point, the ideas are still really good.
Yeah.
So
you'll be back to them.
Yeah. It's just one of those days where it's just like I look at that. It's like that's where you just take that, you burn it, and then you start all over again, or you just leave it in there. It's like this is lovely. I use nothing from you, and that's. I mean, it's part of the learning process, right?
Yeah. So in 2000, just before my Crossroads, I had this idea that I played with, and it's still something I want to go back to. I don't think I have the chops to write it the way I want to yet, and it's a memoir of a cult leader, and so but it's written in. So there's 3 or 4 editions of it. So there's the novel would exist as the memoir as she wrote it. Then there's the annotated version after her death by her cult, her followers. Yeah, kind of clarifying things and trying to say, well, when she said this, she didn't really mean this. And so there's 4 sets of these footnotes reflecting the different changes in social mores and what it was that the cult during this time the cult morphs into the dominant religion, right? And then again goes underground. So they're trying to rewrite her story to fit what it is that they are. And I still think it's a really good idea, I just don't think I'm a good enough writer yet to write it.
I have 2 big novel ideas. Well, one I'm some of the ideas I'm slipping into in this project, which I'm calling the Cloud Diver. The other one though is I want to do. So we live in an interesting time, and we have the opportunity. I think depending on how we go, we can either become a renaissance or a dictatorship. Either way, now.
Totally, we're like at a tipping point right now.
Yeah, and. Because if you look at it today, now so we had the printing press back in the Renaissance. 1930s was another one of those tipping points. We tipped the other way, because in the 30s you had people like Ford, Tesla. You had all these different ideas and concepts, like the idea, like looking at the cars out here. I mean, if Tesla had his way, there wouldn't be one single gas car today. We tipped and went the other way. So now today we have 3D printers, and now our look on technology is becoming tinier, and people are having access to do these incredible things. So if you look at all 3 periods, right? I'm like, those are the periods of there were times of heavy oppression. There were times of people worldwide making choices about the kind of world they want to live, and that's a story I want to write, because it seemed, because to me it's about we are in an interesting, we're just in an interesting time, and the fact that I'm doing a podcast talking to authors from around the world. I mean, just that idea.
Not possible 10 years ago.
No,
10 years ago it was possible. 20 years ago, not possible.
20 years ago,
the long distance would have killed you, and where would you have put it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Today, it's commonplace.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we are in an amazing time. And I'm just like, and a lot of people take for granted that we're in an amazing time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so 2017, 1932, and 15 something or other, right? 1550 or something in that realm. all have similarities, and I thought that would be a neat story to tell.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I hope you tell it. Because
Yeah.
It sounds
Again, the
really
concept,
interesting.
the concept's nailed down. Now I gotta look at I still don't have like the personal elements completely figured out on that, but you know.
Yeah. Well, sometimes you just have to start writing. Right?
Yeah, sometimes.
Shitty first drafts.
Here's the
secret to everything.
Yeah, but I mean, I think every author's got that book. They feel like every author feels like they got that book that they're not ready to tell yet, and sometimes they're not. Like we're just not there yet, and right now, like I said, I'm more interested in talking about and writing about virtual worlds and unicorns that fart rainbows. That's where I'm at right now, and then we'll get there.
Yeah, no, for sure. Did you read Elizabeth Gilbert's Big Magic?
No.
She has. So I just to like.
No.
I hated Eat, Pray, Love. I couldn't finish it. I started reading it, and I had this like fucking overprivileged white woman, boo hoo hoo, oh, your life is so hard, you're going to go on a trip around the world to search yourself out, my heart breaks for you. I had a really hard time with it, and so I was very reluctant to read Big Magic, even when people were raving about it, and so finally one day I crumbled and read through it, and it's actually a really good writing book. I think I would the way that I with my caveat of I hated Eat, Pray, Love, Big Magic was a great book, but she has a bit in there which is so interesting where she says that ideas come knocking, right? They come to you, and then if you don't do something with them, they go to someone else.
Actually,
it's this really metaphysical.
I actually believe. Okay, so my career, like as it is literally, I could sum it up, is simply the application of the opportunities I've been presented.
Yes.
This podcast came about by accident. My book, The Watcher, came about completely by accident. I didn't plan either. I did interviews back like on my sites and stuff. I've been doing them for 15 years, just so that's why I don't worry about formats. Right? I can.
Stuff will come out. Talk to someone long enough, and they'll say something interesting.
Exactly. So I don't worry about that. It's true, right? So I'm interviewing Rob Sawyer because I got really yes, my chance. I grew up reading him, and he just off the wall mentions podcasts, and I'm like. Podcast. I didn't think about podcasts at all. I'm just I just have a recording device I can actually write out interviews easier with. I mean, I thought about that more and more. I'm like, I can do a podcast. I think I could do it. I mean, I don't know what I'm doing, but I've never let that stop me before.
Right.
And that's but that's it. Like the big thing about I've learned in life is every job is essentially to me the same thing. Like it's about just showing up and doing whatever. Like the technical parts of the job are different, but the idea of doing the job doesn't matter what it is the same. You show up, you do whatever it is you're supposed to do, and then you let what the souffle will rise or it will not. Like it is that's just the way it is. That's everything. If you are willing to go, if you are willing to just take the opportunity and just try and go and see where it will take you. This is what ends up happening is that door will go its natural course, and then another door will open. And if you walk through that door, then another door will open. And it's a very true it's one of the truest problems.
If you do things will happen to you.
Yeah. Well, no, but also other opportunities will present.
Sure.
That's how it works. If you don't, the only true way not to do is not to do anything in this world, is to simply make the choice of not doing anything at all.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's even a choice, though. Inertia is a powerful force, and it can really, really freeze people.
Yeah.
And it can be a safe place, right?
Yeah.
Just the place of. I really like. I have this metaphor of before, right? That you're before making the decision, taking the step, you're in this place of pure potential, right?
Yes.
Before you write the book is perfect.
Absolutely.
Before you pitch it to anyone, no one's rejected you, right? Before you look at that girl over there and tell her I love you, you've painted your whole entire perfect life together, and nothing can fuck that up. Sorry, can I swear?
You can.
And so it's not just safe, it's actually kind of intoxicating and sexy. Anything's possible, right? In this place of before. And then once you take that first step out, then things start to happen, and you start making commitments. And ultimately, if you stay in this, like, nothing will happen, right? But there's a seductive element to that.
Absolutely.
Purity of potential, right?
Yeah, that's true. But at some point, though, you have to.
No, absolutely, you have to. But so it's not just it takes courage.
Oh no, absolutely.
And,
The real secret is you can't be afraid to fail, because that's really what it comes down to. Is you have to be willing to go, like, okay, if I have asked for some very interesting things in my life, and I've met some interesting people as a result. Once upon a time, I worked for a pretty well-known author. So I had Brad Meltzer owe me a favor. Of all people, Brad Meltzer owed me a favor. So I asked him for a story idea, for a story record thing. He goes, okay, how's this? Because I had this idea, and I'm still going to write the story someday of a kid carrying a paperclip to try to take over the world. So I have this, it's in my head. I know exactly where I'm going. So Brad's recommendation was, okay, how's this? Orlando, the city, or Tony? Awesome, right? So this gets better. So I'm like, I don't feel like I have nothing to lose. You tell me no, it's no, right? So what I did was, I have friends that work in Hollywood, so I found Tony Orlando's contact info. I contacted Tony Orlando's agency, and I asked if I can use a novel. Now, I did get a no, but it is the most hilarious no I've ever gotten, because the next day I come into the studio where I'm working, and they're like, dude, what did you do? I was like, what did I do? Yeah, we got this message from this dude that sounds like Alex Trebek. He represents Tony Orlando, right? And this, I mean, so I was literally having this conversation with I have a buddy. He's working there. He's a photographer. He's getting better. He wants to go and tour with bands in 2 years. So my thought to him was, why are you waiting 2 years? Why not just see if you can do it now? He goes, it has to be a well-known band. So what? Go out there, ask. They can only tell you no. That's really all. That's what it comes down to, right? But he doesn't throw it in his head. He doesn't think that he can get this.
Rejection is hard.
Oh, it is.
And I think ultimately the difference between the people who get published in writing, or the people who make it however you define it, is actually the ability to tolerate rejection past the point of reason.
Yes.
Right? Like, you get 40 people, 60 people to tell you no, and you just kind of grit your teeth and shake it off and prepare one more pitch, prepare one more manuscript, write one more story, try again, right?
But the best thing for me is my notes have gotten nicer. Like, no, I'm serious. They've gotten a lot nicer, right? Because what happens now is, okay, so my last one was with Alison Baum. I put a story into Alison. I was requested to write a poem for it from Colleen. I submitted it to her. I wasn't sure if it was going to get in or not, because it's like the epic poemness of what I do is a little unusual. She comes back to me, she's like, I have too many things like this. That's why I'm rejecting you. This is good. I wish I had enough room for another collection, or this would be it. Like, it goes, you should need to do this, this, and this, and you will sell it somewhere. Like, I have no doubt.
Right.
So that's a nice rejection. Like, that is a really nice rejection. So it's still a no, but the thing is, you just, all it takes, and this I've thrown this to other people, it takes one yes. That's all it takes. Yeah. That's all it takes. So I can have 1,000 no's. I don't care. Yeah. I only need one yes. Right?
Yeah. Well, and then another one after that, and another one after that.
Once they start happening, they become more regular. You still will. No is part of what we do. It's never ever not going to go away. Even Stephen King gets no. Right? Now his no's are really nice because it's Stephen King, but he still gets no. Right? It's just part of the game. You know what I mean?
One of the most heartening experiences I had was when Neil Gaiman was here, and he did the address at the U of C. I can't remember what it was part of, but he read a piece there that he had prepared, I believe, for the NPR and American Life podcast or something, but he had prepared it for something like that, and it was rejected. Yeah. And it was good. It was incredibly good. So it was this really brilliant piece by Neil fucking Gaiman.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it got rejected. And I know at that point I was trying to sell, I think, my first novel, and I just had this kind of like,
no,
okay,
it's the norm. Like, I mean, we are in the rejection business. That is the the ultimate truth of what we do. It doesn't matter if what you write, who you write for, what you're trying to target. I'm friends with a lot of people. They're still going to tell me no if push comes to push, because they have to believe in what I'm doing. But more importantly, I have to believe in what I'm doing. And that's I think the ultimate secret is you gotta be willing to get up there and go, okay, listen, I may not again, I'm going to be better today. I'm going to keep getting better, but I'm still getting to the point. But I'm still going to go out there because I believe I can do it. And that's it. And you can't be afraid to fail. And that's, I think, really.
Yeah. One of the things that I find challenging about the writing world right now, and again, I don't, maybe the way that I'm thinking of it the way it used to be, because I was never part of it. Although, is that what I'm really good at is sitting down alone and making stories, right? Like that for me, that's never been a challenge. And I think one of the things that all the newspaper deadline magazine writing has really fostered in me is this discipline, workforce discipline, right? I can sit down and I can churn out 1,000 words in 45 minutes.
That's awesome.
And on anything, really. And this whole, sometimes it's not a good
No,
words,
oh no.
Right?
No, not 45 minutes, no.
But sometimes it's
passable. It's passable.
Totally, it's enough. And I'm very good at that. I'm very comfortable with that. That's my safe, happy place, actually. Like when I'm feeling stressed and overwhelmed and there's too much stuff going on, I will go into my space and I will write in my journal, or I will write a bad poem, or I will, work. Yeah. I'm really good at that. What we're doing right now is much harder for me.
Yeah, I couldn't tell. Like honestly, because it's been pretty easy, at least from my end. So.
And the stuff that we're expected to do online now, in terms of putting ourselves forward and selling ourselves and presenting ourselves and sharing ourselves, is very, very difficult for me. And I think for a lot of writers, it's this. For a lot of artists. We're at core all Geminis, because there's this need for self-expression, right? We don't write because we want to keep things secret, right? We don't paint or make music because we want we need to put it out there. But we create, and then that's one skill set, that's one urge. And the second part, the pushing it out there, is a different skill set. And some people have it and embrace it and are very good at it, and for others it's more challenging.
I think it's the approach. So I learned that I cut my teeth literally doing it was in Phoenix, Arizona. Now Phoenix, Arizona has this event called First Friday. It's not like our First Friday. Our First Friday blows in comparison.
What's our First Friday?
It's like a Friday marketplace where people like artists and stuff, kind of arts and crafts sale. What they call First Friday down there is it's an art show.
Okay.
But it's all local artists kind of get gathered together in different city blocks, and they just sell their stuff. And people literally First Friday of every month come out and visit them. So first month I was there, I wasn't properly prepped. So the second month I brought a table. I sat down, and all I did for the second month was I just started talking to people. I realized very early that the biggest stigma with a lot of writers who have to look at this is that they are selling something. They shouldn't look at it like that. I know you're trying to sell something. I know this seems like a.
No, you don't understand. I need people to buy my books.
No, I do. I know that's the back. I know that's the back. But here's the thing. People want to get to know you, and you should happen to be selling something is a better approach than pushing your wares at people all the time like pressure. I found was I'd say hi. I just talk to people. I wouldn't worry about whether I got the sale or not. I would just come. I'd talk. I'd open my big mouth and I'd start talking about random stuff like I'm doing with you right now, and we would talk about whatever for 2-3 minutes at a time, and people would come by and walk by, and if it came up, it's like, well, So then I got to the point. It's like, do you mind if I give you my lame 30-second pitch? And then again, I do it in a way that's very disarming. And then and I do my spiel. They don't want to buy it. That's fine if they want to.
So what, were you selling your poetry?
I was selling my very first book I ever published way back in the day called I Am. It was a very collection of short poems. It was way back before anything else. But I learned an awful lot about how to sell, because literally one time I showed up, I sat at my table. There's the stage that was empty when I started, and then there's this beautiful like art stuff that was being set up. So about an hour into this rock concert, stained glass windows, like the most beautiful things you've ever seen.
Were they shattering?
No.
Okay, not that kind of rock concert.
No. But it was just they were performing. It was some like beautiful music here, beautiful portraits here. What the hell am I doing between them? So, but that's how it worked out. Yeah. I learned an awful lot about talking to people doing that. I think the secret I found to that is, don't worry about the sale. Worry instead about connecting to people, and then happen to push your stuff instead. Like, hi, I'm Josh. Nice to meet you. Right? And then we just talk about whatever, like just for a couple minutes, just right, and just make that connection. Especially if it's a regular thing, like a regular thing. What's going to eventually happen is people are going to remember you, which ultimately, if you really sit there and think about it, that's what you're selling when you do your book.
You're trying to,
yeah.
Well, and you know, this is one of the things. So can we pause so I can get more
we can
hot
pause.
water?
Sure.
You want more hot water?
Sure. Give me a second here.
And that will do it for this episode of Just Joshing. If you want to support the podcast, you can. You can do this a number of different ways. You can subscribe to the podcast either through iTunes or through Podomatic. If you do so, please leave a review. Tell me what you liked about the show, what you hate about the show. Just don't hate too loud, okay, guys? Because I'm sensitive and stuff. Actually, it really doesn't matter to me. Just leave a comment. Let me know what's going on. If you like what you're hearing, that'd be great. Beyond that, you could also buy my books. At this point, The Watcher, Storm Dancer, and The Wandering God are done. The series is complete. You can get them on Amazon. You can get them at mirrorworldpublishing.com. You can get them anywhere books are sold electronically. You can also ask your local chapters, Barnes & Noble or Amazon, to get them in stock. I would love if you did. If you hate the book, just don't tell anybody, okay? Okay. Beyond that, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel. My YouTube channel is Joshua Penteloresco. Currently, past archived episodes of the podcast are there. More and more episodes are going there as we speak. Definitely should check that out and do what needs to be done. Above all else, though, whether you support me or you don't, thank you for listening. You should stay inspired. Do what you feel called to do. Don't be afraid to make the sacrifices required to find the success you're looking for. Because the real secret is, what are you willing to give up to go forward? That, more than anything else, I think determines how far you go. All right, guys, you take care of yourselves. All right, see you next time.
Josh.